What's going on, everyone, and welcome back to the NerdWide podcast. This is episode 75. I'm your host, Tyler Haynes, with my good friend and good co-host, Chris Rivers. Now, Chris, you've got the nice illuminated Elvis sign behind you. I could only wonder why that is a green screen behind you.
Yeah, it's our review of the week
Oh,
for the movies.
listen, we got
So,
a lot to talk about. I'm excited to talk about what we reviewed, especially with Elvis. We went and saw Elvis yesterday in theaters. It was pretty packed. I think besides like the lower three rows, but
hmm
there were the row below us was a full bunch of older women. It looks like
uh-huh.
they were just came out of the nursing home, maybe. But
But there was a mix in the theater as a whole of
hmm
there were some younger people, with some middle-aged people, and
right,
then
it was an experience. I'm really excited to talk about that. But we've got to get to a lot of things first, which
yeah,
are three of our shows,
uh-huh.
because two of them I'm really excited to talk about, and we'll get to those in a minute. But first, quick housekeeping. Don't forget to subscribe to either our YouTube or podcasting service of your choice. If you enjoy the show, make sure you leave us a thumbs up on YouTube or give us a good rating for your podcasting apps. If you don't enjoy what you see or hear, make sure you leave us a comment down below and let us know how we can improve this show. If you want to do more, you can always go to patreon.com/nerdwide. Three different tiers for three different monetary values. A lot of different goodies in each of those tiers if you want to go through and do that. But let's get to our show. Chris, you been watching anything TV wise this past week?
No, this has been a little bit of a crazy week for me.
Yeah.
I started my job,
Oh, how's that been
started
going?
my new job. It's been going pretty good. I've been mid-shifting, even though I'm going to be on a later shift
Yeah.
once I'm through training. So, it's kind of thrown things off for me. So,
Mm-hmm. Throwing that circadian rhythm off.
yeah,
Don't know when to
yeah,
sleep, when it's up or not.
yeah.
Oh, it's been. I've been watching Doctor Who. I'm on season 13. I just finished episode 3 before recording this, so I've got like I think 5 more episodes left, and I'm all caught up and ready to go until the 2022 special, which will be Jodie Whittaker's last episode. And the new Doctor taking over. So that's coming up for it. I haven't really had a whole lot of time this week with everything else going on and all of our shows and movies, and it's been a busy week, but it's been a good week, is what I'll say.
Yeah.
So, especially with these shows. So I want to get right into this. So we've got 3 shows: Superman and Lois, Miss Marvel, and then The Boys. Forewarning everybody, The Boys is extremely R-rated this week. If you have not seen the episode, you might want to skip our review of it because one, it's really good, but two, it gets pretty graphic, and we will talk about a lot of things in graphic nature. So I'll let you know when we get there again, and you can skip it there if you need to. But I mean, the episode's called Hero Gasm, so I mean, take that what you will. But first, we have to talk about Superman and Lois. We're going full spoilers. We're finally having an episode after 2 weeks. I'm going to comicbookresources.com by Sam Stone for the recap here. As Superman and Lois Season 2 reaches its penultimate episode, the Man of Steel finds his abilities failing him after nearly being drained by the villainous ally Alsted's new parasitic powers. Stronger than ever, Ally has begun to merge the inverted world with the Arrowverse, sending the evil, superpowered Lana Lang from her universe to finish off Superman, and with Clark Kent completely vulnerable, it's up to the rest of his friends and family to thwart the potential flawed plan. Recovering from his fight with Allie, Clark returns to the Kent family farm in Smallville, visibly weakened and concerned that his body isn't absorbing and processing solar energy as it has his whole life. Clark has Steele take him to Talro's Kryptonian fortress in the desert so he can learn more about his condition from the hologram of his mother, Laura L. Meanwhile, all electronic activity around the world is disrupted before the cubed red sun from the inverted Earth appears on the horizon as part of Allie's merger between worlds. I'm going to full stop here. So his mom got cut off right there at the end. She was definitely said fly him into the sun, right, to
Yeah.
absorb his power. It's out because it was risky, and I'm like, that's exactly what she was trying to say, which I'm
Yeah.
like, duh, it makes sense. Um,
hmm
but the biggest piece here, a whole new square shaped sun is in the sky for the whole
Right.
world. Technology is being disrupted. Things are phasing in and out. Let's think this through. Who else could help us save this? I mean, I don't know any of the other Arrowverse shows. Supergirl, John Jones, the DEO. I mean, anybody at this point.
Right.
And the whole episode, that's all I could think about. I said, this is not a Smallville event. This is a world event.
Yeah.
And
And and
absolutely
nobody else is showing up.
nothing, dude. The
I mean,
whole episode.
The only argument I think you could maybe make is because it's affecting the globe, everyone's having to stay where they're at to deal
Right.
with the fallout there. But somebody should have peeled off and headed to Smallville because this is the epicenter.
Right. A phone call, maybe. I mean, we've got
A
no technologies
mention,
on the fritz, but yeah.
if Lois had said, I've got to call in to see if I can get in touch with Kara,
Mm-hmm.
something.
Anything. Yeah. Superman's lost all his powers. We've got this big event happening. People are coming in from the other world. Yeah, hey, let's call your cousin who can help us. Because at one
Yeah.
point they said, who can help, and they said it's just left up to us. I'm like, no,
No.
there's other people here. I mean, call Diggle. I mean, call somebody.
Uh-huh.
Uh, that was my biggest beef with this whole episode because
Yeah.
we've talked about it on numerous occasions. I just don't understand where this fits in the Arrowverse, but they keep bringing Diggle in, so it's still in the Arrowverse.
Yeah.
But
And like we've said before, look, if you can't get the actors to actually appear, that's fine, but you should at least mention them as a possibility
right, hey,
because they
like
do
me ending a
exist.
phone call, like okay, we'll talk to you if anything else happens, Kara, and then hang up the phone.
Hmm.
You don't even have to have the actress there for any bit.
Right. Right.
Or anybody. Like they've got the Hall of Justice that was at the end of Crisis of Infinite Earths. Never has been touched again, in my knowledge. I mean, I have not seen the season of Flash it's on now, which is 8, which apparently had a big crossover episodes, the first 5 or 8 episodes of it.
Uh-huh.
But from what I understand, that hall has not been touched, in years. So, I mean, you'd think that you'd have if you had a Hall of Justice, you'd think there'd be a way. Hey, if there's ever a big global event, let's all talk to each other somehow, some way. But here we are.
Mhm.
While Sam Lane is insisting that everyone keeps the full scope of what's going on secret from the general public to avoid possible panic, Lois and Chrissy Beppo brief Lana on what's truly taking place. The inverted Lana menacingly approaches the Kent farm for Superman, but is driven back by Steel before deciding to free the inverted Jonathan Kent instead. In the aftermath, Clark and the others deduce that Allie's in the space between universes and using the powers she absorbed from Superman to fuel the merger, with Steel deciding to take point in stopping her. Superman and Lois shifts to a town hall meeting where Lana shares details about the merger and the loss of Superman with former Mayor George Dean, leading the townspeople to react with hostility. This whole scene cracked me up. I'm going to get through it first, then we'll get to it. This unrest is mitigated by Superman arriving on the scene to assuage Smallville's fears and assure them that Lana is telling everyone the truth. In the confusion, Jordan Kent takes Sarah Cushing away to speak with her privately, only for them to be attacked by the averted Lana and Jonathan. This scene cracked me up too because I'm like, why are you asking the mayor what she knows of a small Kansas City town?
Right.
Why is it her? Why is she supposed to have all the answers? I
Uh-huh.
mean, she's telling you everything as she knows it, and y'all are jumping down her throat and say, "Well, oh, are you supposed to be our savior?" No, I'm just informing you. I mean, I don't. What do you want me to do? I can't
Uh-huh.
move planets.
Yeah.
I'm just the mayor here. It just made no sense to me, that whole plot line here.
With all the crazy stuff that has happened in Smallville, and then all the crazy stuff they're aware of happening
Mm-hmm.
in Metropolis and other parts of the world, they're so quick to laugh at this as a possibility.
Right.
And I'm thinking, really? Like
Yeah. It's
you've you've had a guy who grew up in your town, who bullets can't harm, who can fly around, who has all these superpowers, heat vision,
mm-hmm.
cold breath, all this stuff. And you think this is impossible?
Right.
Really?
It's makes no sense. The end of the episode was what truly saved it for me. So with being attacked by Lana and Jonathan, um, let's see if they get to this. Okay, they do. So Steel locks Natalie out of her new armor to keep her out of harm's way before modifying his own suit so he can handle extra dimensional energies. He ventures into the unknown without the other half of the show's dynamic duo. Steel fires upon Allie in the space between universes, but discovers that his weapons appear to have no effect as she easily defeats him, leaving him cut off from support back on Earth. This one-sided battle occurs as Jordan single-handedly holds his own against the inverted Lana and Jonathan, long enough for Natalie to figure out how to override her father's lockdown protocol. Arriving on the scene at the nick of time, Natalie works with Jordan to incapacitate their inverted opponents, who are both taken into custody by the military. Sarah, who witnesses Jordan's display of superpowers, is angry that her mother kept her ex-boyfriend secret from her all along. We knew that trope was coming. We're about to talk about that
Yeah.
one. This argument is tabled when the merger begins to escalate with the elements of the two worlds appearing on Earth and just one episode left in Superman and Lois this season. I really liked how they did this scene with... This was the strong part of the whole episode for me, was Jordan holding his own against Jonathan, the Bizarro Jonathan and Bizarro Lana. I really thought that was really well done, the way they were fighting in the hallways. But before they fought, he was talking to Sarah. He was about to tell her everything. The mom cuts him off and says, don't. And then we see Bizarro Lana, and he said, y'all need to run. And she goes, I'm not leaving you here. And he turns and his eyes are glowing and he says, run. And I said, oh my God, he did it. She knows we're not dragging this out anymore. I was really excited about that. And then the scene with Bizarro Jonathan and Jordan locking laser eyes together was really cool and really well done. And Natalie coming in to save the day was okay, but then we go back to their house. Sarah is obviously mad at her mom about hiding this from her, keep it secret. We're doing that whole trope. But before it could really be resolved, the worlds start merging. But I just thought it was like the whole time, as soon as that happened, I was like, okay, it's about to hit the fan, and I'm here for it. And then she was talking as if he could hear her, right? Because he gets knocked down in the hallway, and Sarah said something, right? And that's who he heard.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure that's what I took it to be.
Yeah, that's how because I watched with subtitles and everything, and it didn't say the name, but it said, I forget what it said, something like "Don't hurt him" or something like that.
Oh yeah, don't hurt him. Yeah.
And I was like, oh, this is so good. But it was so smart though, because Sarah figured this all out. After she see Jordan's eyes, she goes, "You weren't gone for 6 hours the other day doing at the mayor's office. You were actually finding out all this about Superman." And it just kind of went all together, and I was like, "Oh yeah, this is going to get good. It's going to have repercussions for next season and next episode." I don't think they'll really discuss it much next episode with everything going on, but I'm really excited, and I'm still holding on to the end of this season. I feel like the Jonathans are going to merge somehow, some way, and that's how he gets his powers. And then season 3, we're going to have the tropes of the two brothers both having powers, the dynamic struggle between that, and with Superman. I really feel like that's where the road we're heading down towards, and I'm curious to see, because we don't know. We know we're getting a season 3, but we don't know anything beyond that, especially with this buyout. So I'm curious to see where we go next season, and hopefully it's with no breaks.
Yeah. Except over the holidays, because they always do that. I thought it was really interesting too that when Sarah's talking to Lana, she says, "I broke up with him.
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't if I had known."
Right, because that was the whole thing. He was hiding things from her the whole time. And that was even was it this episode? It was this episode too, where he at the beginning of it. During the town hall little conference thing at the school. They rush in and they said, we've known about this. He tells Sarah that we've known about this. She goes, "Oh, this is what you were hiding from me." He goes, "I couldn't tell you." He goes, "It was not my place, and didn't want to cause a panic about the whole inversion and everything." And that's what I thought. I was like, okay, that's going to be settled and everything. But then we go directly into that hall scene. I was like, nope, we're not settled here, and I'm all about it. So it's always fun when they get to learn about their powers.
Do you think that from the character's standpoint, Lana's a little bit, I don't know, maybe subconsciously a little bit put off by the fact that she could have been Mrs. Superman, but she chose Kyle, and now it's kind of like...
Yeah, that's all. Yeah. I can see that, and I think she doesn't want that for... Well, see, I don't know how they're going to do that with Jordan, because obviously Sarah's going to want to get back with Jordan when this is all done with. Because, I mean, it's the whole secret and everything, but I think he'll try to, and I wonder if... I don't know. I can see them doing that whole storyline of Lana talking to Sarah. She, I could have had this. I didn't realize it until then. You're on a completely different path than I was with Clark, and I don't know. I'm about it. I hope it works out for them.
Yeah, it'll be fun to watch.
So, one more episode left, season 2 finale, and we are running out of show episodes for all three of our shows. But
Mm-hmm.
we'll talk about that later down the line. But for now, we're going to talk about Miss Marvel Episode 3 titled Destined. We are going to denofgeek.com by Kirsten Howard. Let's see. All right. In this third episode of the series, Destined, it was time to get some much needed answers about Kamala's mysterious Bengal, her family's British and history in British occupied India. But who cares that Kamala Khan's got the SADS or about the unsettling plight of the Jinn when Obi-Wan is. Okay, all right. What in the. That has nothing to do with any of this. All right, here we go. Now let's dig into this week's discoveries. It turns out that Kamala's great grandmother Aisha and the current turns out that Kamala's great grandmother Aisha and the current clandestine leader Najma, I'm butchering all of these names. I am so sorry. Discovered that Bengal in an eluded area in India as they sought to escape both partition and our dimension. It was attached to a severed blue arm, and there were supposed to be two Bengals, not arms, although probably arms too. The Bengal did not help the Jinn get home back then, as Aisha disappeared with it soon after. I've not read the Miss Marvel comics, so I'm not sure if Kamala was ever connected to the wider Marvel universe outside of the Inhumans, but as an MCU watcher, this blue arm screams Kree to me. That would be our Captain Marvel connection here, I assume. What I really enjoyed, though, they did a little zoom out of the little pit, the cave they were in, and it was the Ten Rings logo. So, I mean, that connects us to Shang-Chi. And which makes sense because I'm starting to think, does the Bengal have anything to do with the Ten Rings? Because we found out at the end of Shang-Chi, slight spoilers here, that they were not of this planet and they were sending a signal somewhere out in deep space at the end, and that's what was the post-credit scene. So I wonder if this has anything to do with those rings and the Bengal.
Captain Marvel was in that post-credit scene.
Right. So I don't know how connected we are, but I think that's how they're going to do so. And I would love to get Brie Larson at the end of this season, just to kind of tie things. I think we'll get Monica Rambeau more than anybody, but I think it'll still be good.
Yeah.
Back in the present day, the Jinn want Kamala to use the Bengal to help them return to the dimension from where they were first exiled and finish what Aisha started, but naturally their charm fades when Kamala and Bruno decide it's too dangerous to make that happen right now. And Kamala is soon being hunted by them at her brother's wedding, which by all accounts looks like a really good time. Truly, there's a special place in hell for someone who upends a buffet table. I mean, I can't really argue with that statement. Kamala's crush, Cameron, is thankfully not on board with his mother's nasty desperation and attempts to intervene in the melee, but Bruno still gets hurt, and Kamala ends up exposing her powers to Nakia, who is upset and confused at being left out of the loop. After she sees a vision of a train when Najma attempts to grab the Bengal, Nani also sees it and demands that Kamala and her mother travel to Karachi immediately. All this action takes place in the last 10 minutes of the episode because, unlike some of the other MCU shows, Miss Marvel deliberately makes more room for a character-driven story, and that allows us to spend more vital time with Kamala's friends and family. As a result, I don't like seeing Bruno get hurt, I don't like seeing Nakia so crushed by Kamala's secret superhero journey, and I'm mad that the Jinn ruined her brother's wedding. So, not a whole lot to pack in here episode-wise, besides the beginning, where we learned of the Bengal's origin, so to speak, and about her great-grandmother, and then right there at the end with the train, which I thought was, really cool looking, and then the DOD comes in. Department of Damage Control, DODC comes in, and I thought that was fun. We got a lot of character building more so this episode than we did story driving, which is fine because we're right halfway through the season, and we're still figuring out who Kamala is and who Bruno is and Nakia. The only thing I don't like is Nakia being upset that she was Nightlight is what they're calling her, which I think is hilarious. But we did get the classic comic book line from, it didn't come from the dad, it came from the priest. I'm gonna find because it's her with great power comes great responsibility. Episode 3 iconic quote. It's gonna be here. All right, 15 Miss Marvel episode. Oh God, BuzzFeed is truly something crazy. Yeah, we got the 10 rings. We already know about that. All right, I'm just scroll because we got the iconic line though. What?
While you're looking for that, this episode flew by to me. Like,
yes,
the end credits hit, and I was like, really? Was this like a 25-minute episode? Because it felt like that.
It was a good, solid episode. I enjoyed it.
It it was. I wanted more.
Right.
But
Yeah.
but that's kind of the theme for us on these shows is, the episode length is fine, but we just need more episodes in a season.
Mm-hmm.
And not a terrible amount more, 2 to 4 more
Well, do
episodes
it
in a
like they do
season.
with the Netflix shows. I mean, they're like 11 or 12 episodes each,
Yeah.
and roughly an hour. And although I don't think we call them the Netflix shows anymore. The quote was, and this is her Miss Marvel's Spider-Man quote, and it is the priest tells, which is usually the dad that tells her this, but as good is not a thing you are, Kamala. It is a thing you do. Because she asks, so
Yeah.
how does she convince everyone that she's good? And I love that quote. And then we also, I didn't even catch this on the episode. When she's talking to Bruno, Kamala says, "You're good at math. Do you know anything about interdimensional travel off the top of your head? Specifically that of the Nor dimension." He said, "Actually, that reminds me of a paper I read. I think it's by Dr. Eric Silvig, which, of course, is in the Thor movies. So,
Mhm.
and Avengers. So I thought that was cool. Little callback to it. Also, I don't know if you saw this report that came out this past week too. The guy that plays Bruno was the runner up to play Spider-Man in the MCU before Tom Holland.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it was
I
so
did
funny,
see
Chris.
that.
Oh my god, I meant to tell you this yesterday. So we're watching Miss Marvel, and Jamie says, she goes, "Oh, he would have really been a really good Spider-Man." She goes, "I kind of see him as a young Spider-Man." I said, "Funny you say that." I said, because I just read an article the day prior that uh, he was next up and run for it, and then Tom
Yeah.
Holland got it, and I was like, but he would have been a good Spider-Man though. I mean, small little kid, lanky. I think he would have been great, but they obviously kept him in mind 10 years later or so, and here he is.
Yeah.
So
But Tom Holland's fantastic.
yeah,
So
there's no. It's the same thing. There's no new Spider-Man for me yet. I don't think anybody could have done what Tom Holland has done with the character. So okay, it's time, Chris. It's time for the episode. The Boys season 3 again. This is very graphic, and we are going to get into some details, I am sure. But if you're not into the extremely rated maturity stuff, skip this episode until you see the spoilers pop off the screen here. All right, EW.com, Alex Raymond. Let's see. This week's episode of The Boys packs quite a punch. In many ways, it feels like 3 seasons of stories coming to a head all at once, making for an incredibly explosive, shocking, and satisfying episode of TV. After last week's episode saw Butcher and Huey ditch Starlight and Mother's Milk in favor of teaming up with Soldier Boy, we catch up with Butcher and Huey in a hotel room, keeping Soldier Boy happy by plying him with burgers, booze, and benzos. After Soldier Boy learned from Crimson Countess that his abduction in Nicaragua was a setup involving his entire team, he decided to hunt them all down and enact his revenge. Butcher and Huey are down to help as long as Soldier Boy helps them take down Homelander. They strike a deal and Butcher heads out to find a lead. Back at Vought Tower, Homelander learns that Soldier Boy is still alive and it freaks him the F out. He orders Deep now to the sole employee of crime analytics to keep this under wraps. If word gets out that Soldier Boy is alive and turned villain, it could mean the end of Vought and Homelander. For perhaps the first time in the series, we see Homelander legitimately scared. So instead of handling the situation himself, he sends Deep to track down Soldier Boy's team. Again, Anthony Starr, a phenomenal actor, and he doesn't get a is it Emmy for TV.
yeah.
There's something wrong with the world
And
because he is phenomenal.
and Golden Globes, I believe, also are given
Gosh,
out.
he needs everything from this.
Um, the scene where he's talking to himself,
Oh,
his
it's
reflection.
so good.
Yeah.
Like I feel like they pulled out all the stops for this one. They said whatever you guys got to do, make it just the most perfect episode, and they sure did. Like I don't know if there is a better episode that we have seen so far of this. Like for plotline wise, superhero fight wise, which we'll get into in a little bit, and just storyline wise as well. So Homelander rushes out of crime analytics and confides in his most loyal subject, Black Noir, who responds by doing what he always does, staring blankly and saying nothing, which Homelander really, really appreciates. But Black Noir, a former member of Soldier Boy's squad, knows he's in trouble, so he grabs a knife, digs into his arm, rips out his tracking chip, and bails, and no one can find him anywhere. Hilarious. This whole little
Uh-huh.
scene, because he walks into the elevator, a girl is just working in Vought Tower is in there, and he looks at his arm, takes his knife, digs into it, and throws a tracker to her,
Yeah.
and just walks out. And she's got
Blood
blood all over.
splatters
Yeah,
all over.
she's just mortified. It's so funny.
What I loved is when he hands that tracking device to her, and she just kind of looks at it and goes, thank you.
Right. Thank you. Because everyone knows not to mess with the soups because they are all
Right.
batshit crazy. For here, we follow Homelander back to his apartment where he looks in the mirror and has a private heart-to-heart with himself. In a terrific Smeagol Gollum homage, Homelander's dark side urges him to kill what's left of his humanity and become the unkillable, unshakable god he was always meant to be. That's a terrifying thought, which, again, we talked about just a second ago. Phenomenal scene at Entity's start is just great. We next check in with Kimiko in the hospital, hurt and confused by Frenchie's sudden absence after the long-awaited first kiss. I forgot this whole thing happened in this episode. I really did. Unaware that he didn't ditch her, he was taken by little Nina's henchman. After sending him a sweet text, want to watch Singing in the Rain next. She's kidnapped by a Russian goon on orders from little Nina. Meanwhile, Starlight pays a visit to MM, who, after being betrayed yet again by Butcher, is sort of losing it. He's loading up his weapons and getting ready to use them on not Soldier Boy, but Butcher. Starlight tries talking some sense into him, but it was of no use. MM is on the warpath, and nothing is going to stop him. I love the team up. I mean, we had this in season 2 of them. Was it 2 or 1 of them teaming up for a little bit? But
I can't remember.
God, this part's about to be great. I want to watch this whole episode all over again. Starlight's facing pressure from all sides of this episode, so the last thing she needs is a private chat with Director Newman, who admits to being the infamous Head Popper, which I think is such a funny name. Newman wants Starlight's help exposing Vought and taking down Homelander. Oh, sorry, ads popped up. No, okay. Newman wants Starlight's help exposing Vought and taking down Homelander, but Starlight's tired of sacrificing her integrity for the sake of winning, so she walks out on Newman, making yet another powerful enemy. If I'm in Huey's spot, is Newman really that bad guy, though, at this whole... I mean, she's a congresswoman, all politicians are evil kind of thing, but is she, in this world... She's the lesser of all of the evils, I feel like, at this point.
Right.
And she's obviously doing what's best, and she's wanting to do what's best for her daughter and everything. So I'm like, after everybody, is it really that big of a deal? But the fact that they didn't drag it out, that Newman doesn't know that everybody else knows she's the Head Popper, and they just went right into it. And the actress played Newman, Claudia Domet, she did great as well. She goes, okay, come on. I know that you know. And I was like, oh, yes, finally we're not doing this.
Yeah.
Let's see.
No, I honestly, I think that you'd have to worry about her down the road.
Right.
But, no, I mean, she's easily, you've got to get
rid of Homelander. As far as Homelander, I mean, A-Train, The Deep, you've got all these other people. Are we really worried about her?
Maybe not so much A-Train anymore.
Yeah, maybe. We'll see. We'll see when we get there. The final few acts of the episode take place at the home of TNT, a fraternal twin pair of soups who worked with Soldier Boy back in the day. Deep is the first person to arrive on the scene, and it's not just TNT that he finds there. It's a soup party called Herogasm, a massive orgy of C-list superheroes and prostitutes. Deep, who isn't exactly known for his strong will, folds and joins the party, engaging in some particularly shocking debauchery of his own. We will get there. Meanwhile, Kimiko wakes up tied to a chair next to Frenchie's old flame, Cherie. In front of them was a naked, thoroughly tortured Frenchie. This gruesome scene has been orchestrated by little Nina, who further torments Frenchie by asking him to make a choice. Should she kill Kimiko or Cherie? Before he's forced to decide, Kimiko breaks free and takes out little Nina's henchmen. Kimiko, Frenchie, and Cherie manage to escape, but so does little Nina, and something tells me we have not seen the end of her. Soon, Starlight and MM finds the orgy as well and quickly realize that this pleasure party could turn into a murder party if they don't clear the house before Soldier Boy shows up. But things get complicated when Huey teleports in to do some surveillance and running into his arch nemesis A-Train. Again, fully naked when he teleports in here.
Yeah.
Bolstered by the V-24 running through his veins, Huey finally works up the courage to stand up to A-Train, pushing him to apologize for murdering his girlfriend Robin back in the pilot. I thought this was good story building as well for this one. Him saying, you never really apologize to her. And A-Train realizing the bad that he's done because he sees his brother all banged up and everything. Because he had the conversation with Ashley at the beginning of the episode. That's not really mentioned here. She goes, after everyone you've killed and murdered, you're really worried about this guy. Talking about Blue Hawk. And he kind of comes into his own. But when Huey pushes him, he goes, you never really apologized for Robin. He says, you know what? I am truly sorry. He goes, I understand the hurt that I have caused you, and I apologize. And it was very, very good, which I should have realized what was going to happen after that, because like any TV show, anytime that anyone redeems themselves, something happens. And sure enough, we will get there.
And before that happened, Huey just lays him out.
Mm-hmm. Cole cocks him right in the jaw. And to Huey's
It's
utter shock, A-Train actually apologizes after watching Blue Hawk cripple his brother. He's finally come to realize the cost of his collateral damage. Huey doesn't know what to say, so he simply winds up and punches A-Train in the face. The fight is quickly broken up by Starlight. Again, he's naked while all this is happening. A-Train. Why was A-Train there? Did we know why he was there? Because he was fully clothed.
I think he was going after Blue Hawk.
Oh, that's right. That's exactly what it was.
But Huey does put on that robe.
Yeah, the little pink, cutesy little robe, lingerie robe, whatever you want to call it. It's here that shit really starts to go down. Huey teleports Starlight out of the house, trying to save her from what's to come. But Starlight doesn't need a superhero. She needs the kind, vulnerable Huey she met on the park bench in Season 1. The two have it out while naked, post-teleportation, mind you, in a brutal argument that feels like the death knell for the relationship. And I hate this. Oh, I hate this so much, because I love Huey and Starlight together. I really do. And I feel like they complement each other well. Meanwhile, back at the orgy, Mother's Milk sees Soldier Boy walk through the door. He confronts the Soup about killing his family. Soldier Boy says, "Which one?" Which causes MM's blood to boil, so he clenches his fist and prepares to fight until Butcher steps between them and asks Soldier Boy to spare MM. Soldier Boy agrees he's here to kill TNT, not some rando, so he heads off. Finding TNT, who begged for their lives, insisting that it was Black Noir who came up with the plan to betray him, Soldier Boy doesn't buy it. Black Noir doesn't make a move without Vought's approval. As he prepares to execute TNT, a nearby radio suddenly begins playing the Russian pop song, which triggers Soldier Boy's trauma and causes him to lose control of his powers, just like he did in New York. The home and everyone in it is decimated. Hilarious little scene here with TNT. The brother of the twins was filming people use the toilet, and they put it on the big screen TV, and the scene's happening, and it's right there on the back of the TV. And Soldier Boy says something about he's like, "Oh, that looks like a used asshole," or something like that. I was like, "Oh my god, dude!" Oh, it was just something I never thought I would ever see in a TV show ever.
No, and seeing TNT here as well, because they Warner Brothers and DC just scrapped the Wonder Twins movie, which is essentially what they're a spoof of.
Right.
So that was kind of a little bit of a one last jab with these characters.
Can't even use their powers either. They touch hands, just this little spark because they haven't done it in so long. It's so funny. Oh god. As the bloody survivors stumble out of the home, A-Train finds Blue Hawk and dishes out some justice for his brother by grabbing the racist Soup and dragging him at full speed down a highway until he's nothing more than a mangled pile of meat. But the physical exertion is too much for A-Train, whose heart gives out, leaving him lying alone on the asphalt. Could this be the final stop for the A-Train? Because we hear his heartbeat, they make it very loud and audible, and then it stops. And he just kind of rolls his head over. Do we think he's dead? I don't know. I mean, maybe?
I think because he could tune in and hear it. Homelander doesn't have any allies. A-Train wants his acceptance. Maybe he doesn't anymore. But I could see Homelander saving his life.
Swooping by as he's flying out of the house. Yeah. Oh, that was a very, very brutal scene of him dragging the body, just sitting there bouncing as he's running down the road. I said, "Oh, this is
very well done."
Looking. Yes, very well done.
Very well done.
As if this wasn't enough action for one episode, Homelander touches ground outside the wreckage of the house. And if you ever wondered who would win in a fight, Superman or Captain America, here's your answer. And what's possibly the most badass action scene of the series thus far, Homelander and Soldier Boy face off, and just when it seems like Homelander has the edge on Superboy, Butcher and Huey show up, powers on full display, to Homelander's confusion. While Soldier Boy, Butcher, and Huey working together, they manage to pin Homelander down, and just as Soldier Boy is about to blast him away, Homelander escapes. As the dust settles, we end this episode with Starlight, who goes on Instagram Live and lets loose exposing the truth about Soldier Boy, Vought, Homelander, all of it. She signs off not as Starlight, but as Annie January, and quits the Seven. I mean, she just says, "My name is Annie January, it's not Starlight, and I quit." And that's how the episode ends. I was like, yep, I'm all about this. But we got to talk about the fight here. This fight was so well choreographed and so very well done that I absolutely loved it. And I mean, I thought Homelander was honestly about to get nuked this episode, but I guess because he already used that power just a little bit prior, it took Soldier Boy a little bit longer to charge it up. because I felt like we were charging it for a while. But it was really cool because you had Huey on one side, Butcher on the other, Soldier Boy standing above him, and Homelander's got his eyes red, and they're just pushing his head into the ground where he can't do anything. And I was
Yeah,
like,
and
so damn cool.
it took everything in him
Mm-hmm.
to take off
It
and
is,
get out of that situation.
but now he knows about Soldier Boy is out to kill him. He knows that Butcher and Huey are involved, and now
He
Starlight
knows they
is
have
quit.
powers.
Yeah, and they have powers. He was very confused about that. He said,
Yeah,
What? That didn't make it." Because he blasted him with his eye beam, like he was about to kill him. And
yeah,
he thought, that doesn't make any sense. And like again, Anthony Starr's acting, like you can tell the confusion on his face. I'm
mm,
surprised we have not seen this guy in more things, honestly. But I think after this, his career is going to take off because he's got
yeah.
range for days. And oh my lord, this episode was a showcase of it.
And there's some stuff that the some humorous stuff that the recap doesn't mention, like the guy that meets Annie and MM at the door.
Which was a
What?
callback from season 2
Yeah,
because he was in
and
the little prison thing or the
they
mental
call him
hospital.
what? They call him what? Love meat
Love,
or something.
oh, love,
Love sausage.
yes, love sausage.
And he's like, I like it.
Yeah,
I
he
like
goes,
it.
I like that. And when I had the subtitles on, that's what they put his name as, the love sausage. After that, I was like, that's so good, very well
It's
done.
that way. It's that way in the credits too.
Yeah, they're just so good, man.
Um,
And he's still
but
alive at the end of this, just out there
yeah,
dangling and. Um,
but MM gets
splooged,
he gets unloaded on like
dude. So
to
the voice that
parents.
was in there was Eric Kripke, the
Yeah,
director and writer.
parents cover your kids' ears. MM got bukkake.
Yeah,
That's
extremely. Dude, it was so good. I mean, it was. What was funny was this has never before been done that I've seen. The episode starts with a disclaimer, and it says,
uh-huh.
everything was done safely with everyone's consent. No one was hurt or anything during this filming of this.
No animals.
Even animals,
'Cause I don't
people,
think we
or
touched on that.
yeah, and
Um,
it ensued.
Annie walks in on the deep, having sex with an octopus.
Yep. Uh huh. You hear him talking to somebody, and I saw the fish tank. I said, "Oh no, 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 no!" And he turns around, and it's not
But
what it is. It's not what it is.
even more important, she videoed it,
Yep.
and you got to figure that she's going to send that out.
Oh yeah, she's about because she just at the end of the episode just lost it. So
Yeah,
she's definitely exposing everybody at this
yeah.
point.
And
Um.
I think a lot of that's born out of her disappointment with Huey.
Yeah.
I think if he was still there, the same guy that she wanted him to be,
Mm-hmm.
she would have held it together more
Right.
so.
So
Uh,
Butcher and Huey definitely have an addiction here. Like this is we're
mhm.
past just using it for this little bit. It's on full blown addiction,
Yeah.
and you can tell. So other observations I have here: Soldier Boy is truly a product of a different generation. There's no better example of that than his epically uncomfortable quip about Bill Cosby. Quote, "Cos, that's a real man. Holy shit, did he make some strong drinks?" Yeah, they went there. Hero might be one of the wildest things I've ever seen on TV. Toilet surveillance, a soup simultaneously pleasuring three women with his mind. MM getting covered in semen. Yeah, they went there as well. And then my eyes nearly popped out of my head when I saw the Deep getting a blowjob from an octopus. But I mean, of course they went there. It's the boys. What did you expect? I mean, this episode, I want to watch it again because there's a lot that happens, and there's a lot to take in as they're walking through
uh-huh.
the house. And I want to watch that superhero fight again at the end too. So
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
be fair, so we're out of all of our shows. No, so we've got one episode of Superman and Lois, 3 episodes of Miss Marvel, and 2 episodes of The Boys left for the year. And then I think we're SOL until She-Hulk comes back because I don't think there's any other show. Titans is still filming. Doom Patrol hasn't even attempted filming yet.
Invincible, we haven't heard an update on.
Invincible, we haven't heard anything from. So we might have to. I don't know. We could
Adopt
always
a show.
go ahead.
We'll adopt a show.
Adopt. Yeah, we could adopt a show, or we could go back to an old one and do a week by week kind of thing. One we
Yeah,
haven't
we'll do
reviewed
that.
or anything like that.
Mhm.
Or like review a first half of the season or second half of the season, something like that. We'll figure
Maybe
it out.
check out some of the OG Netflix shows
Yeah.
for Marvel or
Oh, that'd be. Oh, see, I like where we're going here. Oh, that would be actually really good. All right. Releases this week. Wednesday, June 29th, Baymax, the Disney Plus series, launches on Disney Plus. And Friday, July 1st, Stranger Things, Season 4, Volume 2, which is only 2 episodes. But the first episode is an hour and like 15 minutes. The second episode is 2.5 hours long. So it might as well just be
a
a
movie.
movie. And my wife has already said there are no plans Friday night because we're watching both. And I said,
Oh,
okay. So yeah, she goes we waited like 2 weeks to start watching Stranger Things last time, the season 4. She
mhm.
goes, we're not falling behind. We're watching it night one. And I said, okay, just I guess we'll get some popcorn and stay here all night long until like midnight. Cause it's gonna take us a while. But that is
Yeah.
it for our TV shows this week.
Awesome. Well, that means we're going to movies.
Mm-hmm.
Um, did we watch a movie this week? Yeah, we watched a movie this week.
I can't pull this by hand on what it was though.
Um, so did you watch any other movies this week?
I watched the original Thor leading up to Thor Love and Thunder. I'm watching through all the other movies. I think I'm going to skip two, but I am going to watch
No
Thor
Dark
Ragnarok.
World for you?
Yeah. It's not the best one. Probably my least favorite Marvel movie. It's still pretty bad. I'm just going to put it there.
Right.
But yeah, Thor, it's still a different kind of movie.
Uh-huh.
Different time, but I like where we are now with Taika Waititi. So
Yeah, we got a trailer before our movie this week
mm-hmm.
for Thor. Um, so that was good. A lot of different trailers
Yeah, some
before
of
this
them like
movie.
the trailers were really cut really well. I don't think any of the movies I'd be watching though. I was expecting
Now,
like something good to be coming out, but it was like more of a
the one
different
that
targeted audience.
the one that we saw the poster for heading in, and neither of us knew what it was. About the the girl that grows up by herself in the marsh
Where the crawdad
or
sings.
in the swamp. Yeah,
Yeah,
that might be a
yeah,
pretty good
that
flick.
looks good.
But some of the others, they're period, which I don't mind period pieces,
Mm-hmm.
but it's stuff that
I don't think they
I
were
just
targeted towards us.
no,
As much as the word.
which is something eventually that I do want to talk about with our movie this week, which is Elvis.
Mm-hmm.
Now it's tough to know how much to say because I don't feel like on one hand that there's a ton that's spoilery here.
Yeah, that's. I think we can just talk about anything we want to, but it's not really spoilers. It's kind of a what do they call these? It's not really a documentary
It's
story,
like a biopic.
biopic. Yeah, I mean, it's not really spoilery because there's a lot of things in here I didn't even know about Elvis like at all. Like I had no idea he was in the army for 2 years. I had no idea that's where he married his. I knew he had a drug addiction problem. I did not. I had no idea who Tom Hanks' character was before going into this. Honestly,
Arnold.
I just never did. Only thing I've known Elvis from is he died of the pot. He had drug issues, and he was a huge star. Like the majority of this movie, Chris, I had no idea about, like at all.
Yeah.
So,
So Baz Luhrmann really the movie does not run strictly chronologically. So if you're going in thinking
mm-hmm.
you're going to see Elvis as a kid, then everything happened in order. It doesn't really work that way. It kind of bounces back and forth at times, showing flashbacks to him as a kid or him when he's starting out. Um, you get a lot of the major events in his career. If you're familiar with Elvis, it's not going to surprise you. If you're really familiar with Elvis, you do have to overlook some stuff. Um, Primarily that they kind of condense some things for
Right.
time purposes. It's a 2.5 hour movie, so um, one of the things that kind of caught my eye, for instance, was you get to his Vegas opening in '69. The performance that they use that Austin Butler recreates is actually from a year later,
Mm-hmm.
or that's the way it is special. The jumpsuit he's wearing and everything is from a year later, but everything else about it is from the Vegas opening. Um, My thing is that I want to get into my thoughts, but first I want to know yours because I grew up an Elvis fan. So you came into it, like you said, with very
Hmm.
little knowledge. So I'm curious how it hit you.
So this movie, I really, 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 really enjoyed. Like I am at, and I've been struggling ever since we got out of the theater. What do I want to give this on Letterboxd? Like I'm at either a 4.5 or it's completely 5 stars. Like I absolutely love this movie, and we even talked about before recording. I want to go watch this again,
Yeah.
just to see it, because I really did enjoy it. I think the opening up, I did not like it. Like at first, I was very worried because they had Colonel Tom Parker, Tom Hanks, talking over, and it kind of was like doing all these little weird camera motions, going through things, at him like having a heart attack or going back to the hospital, and it was just doing these very weird camera angles and going in and out of stuff. And I was like, I don't like how this is working. But once we actually started in on the story of getting to it, like I feel like it was more of a an Elvis movie, but also a Colonel movie as
Yeah.
well. And I mean, and it's I understand that now because you can't have a conversation about Elvis without mentioning Colonel, and you can't have a conversation about Colonel without mentioning Elvis. And I mean, I think that was the whole point of the whole movie.
Hmm.
Um, and I'm glad at the very end, I talked about after because it ends pretty much with Elvis's death,
Right.
and it at the end of the movie though it has little blurbs up that says he was eventually tried and sued for how was it for exploiting Elvis. And I mean the movie was not he was not a good person, and you kind of see it from his perspective. And even when they're on the stage at one point and he had a napkin with the international deal on it, I was like,
Hmm.
okay, he's going to not do this. And then obviously it didn't work out that way. But I was like, what kind of different life and how much longer could have Elvis lived if Colonel Tom Parker was cut off early on in his career?
Right.
Like where would he been? I mean, he could honestly still be alive today, albeit very old, but he would have been because the doctor like he kept giving him shots like adrenaline and stuff. Like he was not doing good things to Elvis. And
No.
but no, I really really enjoyed this movie. I'm gonna go ahead and say let's make this a perfect movie. This is a 5 for me. Even
Yeah.
with that little bit at the beginning, like we had some obviously the Elvis songs in it. We had songs from BB King in there as well, and then we had
Hmm.
like songs from our time mixed in with Elvis's songs. And like when they were doing in between scenes, like when they were doing the going through Beale Street at nighttime. The one time when Elvis was driving through his car, they had I think it was Cardi B, either Cardi B or Nicki Minaj. I haven't looked it up yet, but them rapping and singing as they were doing, I was like, this is really well done. And like it was, the whole movie was really cool and really well done. Like the whole extras behind the scenes making Memphis feel alive in its own character on top of everybody else. It was very well done. And I mean, there's a whole like I want to either read or watch something more on Elvis because like the whole like everything I did not know. Like I had no idea he was in the army for 2 years. I had no idea there was the young Elvis, I guess is what you call of his career before he went to the army. And they like I didn't realize there was a big segregation issue with the way he was dancing and singing and everything. I never knew that. And so when
Yeah.
all that was happening at the baseball field, he was doing the concert. I was like, this is nuts. And
Yeah.
I was like, of course, this is the world that we live in and that's still around. But I was like, that I had no idea the king of rock and roll was a big advocacy for anti-segregation and everything. And I was
Hmm.
like, this is awesome and really cool. And I mean, Austin Butler acted his ass off. Like him and Tom Hanks, both did a
Yeah.
phenomenal job. The lady that played Priscilla, Olivia
Oh,
DeJonge, again, phenomenal. Like all three of them deserve Oscars for this. This should be an Oscar film, and if it's not, then this world is the Academy is seriously wrong. Seriously wrong.
I loved Walk the Line when it came out,
Mm-hmm.
and that got nominated, so this should definitely be. Um, that's what I was curious about. Coming at it from your perspective, was it going to get you interested in checking out more
Oh, it did.
of
One
Elvis's
hundred
stuff?
percent did.
Because that's what people have been thinking is going to happen. Because when Walk the Line came out, interest in Johnny Cash among young people spiked,
Mm-hmm.
right? They got interested in it, and they're thinking the same thing is going to happen here. Um, it's one of the things that I really, really liked about the movie is that they do show in those early scenes what Tupelo was like,
Mm-hmm.
because it's not necessarily accurate in terms of that big field with the revival tent and all that. It's not that they went to Tupelo and filmed or anything like that, but Elvis, as a kid, he played with white kids and he played with black kids
Mm-hmm.
because his family, they were sharecroppers. And in that sharecropping community, you just helped each other out.
Right.
They describe it that if you had a tool, if you were fortunate enough to have, say, a tool that other people in the community would need, it was everybody's
Mm-hmm.
because everybody was poor. And so he kind of grew up with that, and that's why he didn't think anything about going to going to churches that were traditionally black.
Mm-hmm.
He didn't think anything about going down on Bill Street and hanging out
Well, and they
with your
portrayed that really
stuffing.
well. Like when he was at the white community, they were judging him and making fun of him for hanging out with black people. But like when he went to Beale Street and he went to that church in particular, like they did not look at him differently. Like he
No.
was one of them and a part of that family and part of that world. And that was like they like even with the church revival, which was so cool because they mentioned it throughout the whole movie how much he loved Captain Marvel,
Uh-huh.
and he even had the logo, and he sees himself as Captain Marvel Junior, and he wants to get to the Rock of Eternity,
Hmm.
and like when he goes to the revival, and starts feeling the music, and which they like feeling the soul of Jesus and everything, and they all lift him up, and he's a part of the community with them, and it was so well done. Like every performance across the board. I mean, there's a lot of famous people in this movie, but it was
Hmm.
so well done. And yeah, I mean, yeah, I wanted. What did you think of it? And what do you anything they did particularly well? Anything that they didn't mention that you wish they did, or anything like that?
I'm kind of like you. I've been going back and forth between 4.5 and 5.
Mm-hmm.
I entered a 4.5 on Letterbox just because I feel like for me, I wouldn't have minded another 20 to 30 minutes just to add a few more things in.
I didn't realize this movie was that long though, because like I kept thinking we were getting closer to the end of it, and like we the movie started 10:30. We left the theater at 1:35 ish, or
Yeah.
like we got out of our theater at 1:35 ish, and I was like, oh, I didn't realize it was that long. But like it kept going, and like it kept telling me more that I didn't know, because there were several parts. I was like, okay, we're getting close to wrapping it up. This is where he's about to die.
Hmm.
This is where he's about to die. But no, they kept going through it, and I like it at the end of it. The one critique I wish they would have done a little bit differently. Oh, I got something else to talk about after this too. But the when people took pictures of the newspapers and things like that, I kind of wish they would have gotten those pictures from real life and put
Hmm.
those in the movie. Um, but Austin, the way the production team, excuse me, did with Austin Butler's makeup throughout the whole film, making him look aged. I meant to tell you that yesterday. I said that was really remarkable because I mean they had him real
Yeah.
young, and then they aged him as the movie went on, and I was like,
Uh-huh.
this kid is he's in his 20s. I said, but they made him look old and really really well done. Same thing with Colonel Tom Hanks, but he was just in a fat suit and some makeup, but he did really really well.
Yeah, they do a cool transition at the end.
Mm-hmm.
Y y it's the CBS special that it aired after Elvis died. It was filmed on the last tour, and Austin Butler, they've got his face full.
Mm-hmm.
It did look like there was a little bit of CGI there,
Yeah.
um, but I'm sure there were probably some prosthetics as well. And they what they do is midway through that performance of Unchained Melody, they shift to the real
Yeah.
footage of Elvis. And then from there, you get a lot of real images of him as opposed to Austin Butler in the role. And so that was kind of cool because then
Mm-hmm.
that leads directly into the shots and the footage of the funeral procession and stuff like that. So Um, I liked the way that they handled everything. I do think I don't know. I'm curious what the sources were for some of the stuff. I've never heard that the colonel for sure was the reason behind him getting drafted, which is what the movie says.
Yeah.
That because he refuses to tame himself down and to avoid the colonel himself being deported, he strikes a deal um, with the government to draft Elvis into the army for two
Mm.
years.
I'm sure that was more so
Um,
for dramatic effect
it
too,
could have
but
been, but then
yeah,
knowing how the colonel was,
right. It could be true too.
it could be true. Um, I would have liked probably a touch more uh, to do with the movies,
Mm-hmm.
especially maybe the early movies. A little scene or two, maybe from the Jailhouse Rock set or something like that. There's not really, though, a lot that they missed as
Mm-mm.
far as the major events. They kind of glossed over Aloha from Hawaii,
Yeah,
the satellite concert.
they mentioned it like once and shown a kind of like a little graphic or motion moving graphic, and that was kind of it.
Yeah,
But
so that might be one. Um, yeah, it's they they mentioned trying to think what it was. So he comes out of the army. He does GI Blues because of course Hollywood's going to make money off the fact that he was just in the army.
mm-hmm.
And then they do show like Flaming Star, big dramatic role, but they that was nice that they threw that in there because the Colonel always promised him more serious movies and never delivered.
Right.
Um, I do find it interesting because the estate and the family were involved in the movie to the point of information, advising them on certain things. Um, and Margaret doesn't get mentioned here. And she and Elvis made the movie Viva Las Vegas together. Uh, they had a pretty serious fling while that was going on. They stayed friends for the rest of his life. There were people who said who were around him who claimed that had she been willing to walk away from her career, he would have married her.
Mm.
So I mean, it was a pretty serious thing. I don't know if that's 100% accurate. Um, they also told the '68 special differently a little bit. I'd always heard that they kept going back and forth with the Colonel about it not being a Christmas show,
Mm-hmm.
and finally they worked out the deal that Blue Christmas would be sung on the stage when he's in the black leather, and that would be the Christmas song for the show. But here they sell it as he always believes that there's going to be these Christmas numbers, um, and they always pull the wool over his eyes. I mean, it was funny. There's a scene where the gospel numbers are being done for the '68 special, and he's in the control booth. The colonel is, and he says, "This cannot be in the special." And Steve Bender looks to his assistant and says, "Make sure this is in the special."
Mm-hmm. They made some funny little quips in it. It was
Yeah,
really good.
yeah, they really did. But they got Gladys's alcohol addiction, uh, which was good, and I I felt like they could have fleshed out just a bit more
Mm-hmm.
um, her bond with Elvis. Um, I mean, they do touch on very early that he was one of two. He was a twin, and his twin was stillborn. Um, she, I think it was another 35 minutes or so that she was in labor
Mm.
before Elvis came, and they had a part of the quote that she said to have told him a number of times over the years, which what she supposedly always told him was that when one twin dies at birth, the soul of that twin goes into the other twin's body. Therefore, the surviving twin has twice the fortune, twice the fame, twice the sorrow, twice the pain. So
Sure enough.
sure enough. But I did like that they had some nice scenes with he and Lisa, even though the actress that played her I don't think really had any lines.
Right.
Um,
Not until right there at the end. She barely said anything, but
yeah, but that scene in the limo outside the airplane when he and Priscilla see each other for the last time in the movie.
mm-hmm.
I don't know if it was the last time in reality, but and he has that line of I'm going to be 40 soon and nobody's going to remember me. And it's
Right.
like, dude,
Yeah. Well, I
no.
mean, it's they did a good job of portraying why he would have felt that way, because like
Yeah,
the in the background you hear about all these new
his weight
artists
gain.
and like coming up and taking over. Like even one of the radio shows said, for the newer, for the big crowd, there's a big show in this Vegas. For the older crowd, Elvis is still going on this weekend. I was like, okay, so
Yeah. But it's one of those things too where he didn't believe he could be a rock and roll artist at 40
right,
because no one had done it because he was the first one, you know. So that's probably a large part of why he felt that way. But
yeah,
overall, it touched on a lot of key points. I will say this: some of his exes, in the case of Linda Thompson and some of his family members, have been on social media saying that they were upset. They weren't consulted for portions of the movie that they would have been there for. They weren't asked to the premiere.
mm,
It really wasn't a strictly Elvis movie. Like you said, it was Elvis and the Colonel.
yeah,
So, like, Linda Thompson was with him for 4.5 years after Priscilla, but there really wasn't a lot she could have been in there scene wise.
yeah,
Handing Lisa off at the airport was probably just about it.
yeah,
Um, and his cousin, one of his cousins, Billy Smith, has been out on social media talking a lot about that. And he's in the movie, he's represented, but there wasn't anything impactful there that
right. I mean, they would have done
involved
anything
him.
with the story.
Right.
So
So I think once, which a lot of them are saying they're not going to see it because they weren't asked to be a part of it. But
they
if they
they
did,
don't need your ticket sales at this point.
yeah,
So I mean,
and we'll talk about here in just a second. But yeah, it the way the story was told, it really didn't involve them.
right,
I mean, it involved Priscilla as much as it did because she was there for that period where he was like, "Do I really need the Colonel?" And he was starting to, she was helping to open his eyes to stuff that he could do that the Colonel didn't want him to do, like touring the world. Um, Really quickly, this is from Deadline, Anthony D'Alessandro, and this just got updated this morning.
yeah, just a couple hours ago.
Elvis and Top Gun Maverick are in a dead heat for number one, with both Warner Brothers and Paramount respectively calling each film at 30.5 million for the weekend. Um, I want to get to the part here. Now it's Top Gun's fifth weekend, so the fact that Top Gun in its fifth weekend is still doing this well
Well,
is
they just crossed $1 billion this weekend.
yeah. But this is Elvis's opening weekend,
Mm-hmm.
and they point out. Let's see if I can find this here. I had it on that part, and it's
Good old
um
ads.
yeah. It says here, big cheer to Warner Brothers for getting much older um, moviegoers out, which in updated ComScore Screen Engine Post Track exits is 31% of the movie-going audience. I guess for Elvis is over 55, 48% over 45. Not to mention Elvis reps a breakthrough at the box office for a long-running time pick at 2 hours and 39 minutes. Um, it speaks about here how older women, especially, were slow to return to cinemas during the pandemic. But Elvis has pulled in a huge 45% of women over 25 who gave the pick its highest grade on their way out of the theaters at 92%.
I wonder why.
Um, it and then it mentions the success here with Elvis shows these adult skewing movies can still open on the big screen to very good numbers. Um, that's somewhat true, but I mean, this also comes with a built-in audience.
Yeah.
It's not like we mentioned some of those previews we saw before this that would also fit that demographic. They're not going to go see those movies
No.
in theaters.
There'll be a
If they,
DVD or wait for it to come to their house kind of thing.
yeah, this is a different thing where you have someone who is a pop culture icon
Right.
pulling people into the theater. But 30.5 million for the opening weekend, I think is that the biggest non-comic related opening weekend?
Let's see. I don't because Top Gun.
Top Gun probably beat that
Yeah.
in its opening weekend. I think it was like 50 maybe.
Yeah. Trying to think.
But it's definitely up there. Most of the opening weekends have for non-superhero stuff have been like 14,
Yeah.
12, 10.
Not this well.
Not this well. So that's definitely a big plus. So, did you have anything else you wanted to say about this,
No,
or
I
anything
really want
we
to watch
didn't
it
touch
again.
on?
I really want to watch it again. And I mean, I feel like this is our strongest review of a movie we've done in a long time, just because of
Yeah,
one of your knowledge of it and mine, my not having not that much knowledge about it. So like I went
right.
into it, no, I was like, okay, he was a great rock and roll star. He did flashy outfits, um, and all this stuff. Like I really did not know a whole lot of the story. And like I like how you mentioned that with the whole sharecropping thing and how it was all about family and everyone's family. Because every time it showed Graceland, the whole family was out front doing something and playing and doing things, and that just marks on that too. And that's crazy to me. And now I want to go to Memphis and
There.
tour Graceland.
Hey, we'll do a road trip.
So I'm saying it's not that. I mean, it's only 3.5 hours from us, so it's not too terribly bad.
Uh, Before we leave it, though, there that did remind me. You mentioned the family all being out in the yard and everything. Um, there's a scene in the movie where he does snap at, I think it's Jerry Schilling,
Mm,
because he kind of questions like they're talking about the '68 special, which is um, sponsored by the Singer Sewing Machine Company, and Jerry's like, "Oh, so you want him to sell some more appliances?"
right.
And he said something to him to the effect of, "It's not your business how I support all of you or whatever."
Mm-hmm.
Um, and it kind of brought to mind the Beatles had a anthology special, multi-parts back in the '90s, and George Harrison said in that he always felt bad for Elvis because there was only one Elvis.
Mm-hmm.
He said everything was on him, and no one around him knew what it was like to be Elvis, to have the pressure, to have all that adoration thrown
Mm-hmm.
your way. Nobody knew. Whereas the Beatles each had each other,
Right. They
you
could talk
know.
about with each other and go through it
Right.
together.
Yeah. But very good movie. It's definitely worth going to the
Mm-hmm.
theater to watch. I think the I think I saw the IMAX screens are taken up with is it Top Gun that's in IMAX right now, or is it Lightyear?
It's probably Top Gun
Lightyear
still.
Lightyear plummeted, by the way. I saw something where I think its box office went down. I want to say it was like 79% or something
Really?
like that. Where it just yeah. Now that'll probably rebound some because Fourth of July weekend coming
Right.
up. But
Trying to see.
all
Yeah,
right,
Lightyear's in IMAX. Jurassic World Dominion's in IMAX. Top Gun Maverick. So it's those three.
yeah. Well, next week, right, we're going to be reviewing The Man from Toronto, which is on Netflix. So if you want to watch that before the show, please do.
Hmm.
Stars Kaylee Cuoco and
Kevin Hart.
Kevin Hart. That's a interesting comedic duo.
It's got Kevin Hart, Woody Harrelson, Kay Cuoco, Pearson Fode, And it looks like that's it. Like as far as big names, at least that's what IMDb is popping up.
Right. All right, let's get on to the news. Really big news. From E! News, and this comes from Keisha Ford. A Spy Kids reboot is happening with Gina Rodriguez and Zachary Levi.
Mhm. The
More than
the two the main cast is what was came out this week. So
Yeah, more than 20 years after the hit movie Spy Kids debuted in theaters, the family-centric franchise is back in a new way. Netflix announced a reboot starring Gina Rodriguez and Zachary Levi. Um,
he
on
doesn't have
January,
any spy experience though, so I don't know why he would have tried and got this role.
right? I mean, might be a little Chuck-tastic.
Right.
Um, on June 23rd, the streaming service announced another film from the family-friendly franchise centered on spies, which first debuted in 2001, is in the works. Uh, the other two stars here are Everly Karjania and Connor Esterson. So those will be the kids. Definitely worth checking. I like Zach Levi, so I'll
Yeah.
check that out.
Anything he's in, I kind of want to watch. So he's a good
Yeah.
actor. Good people too.
Good people. He wrote a book, didn't he?
Oh, did he?
I think he did.
I know
I
he's
think
got
he's
his
been
own little
promoting it.
wine company, which I mean, what actor does not now? So.
Right. Stephen Amell trailblazing right there.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
I sure
I've
does.
got
Called
my
Radical Love.
I've got my Knocking Point hat somewhere around here. Good wine. Check them out.
Oh, it
Not
comes out in
endorsed.
2 days. Chris, come on. You can't just
What?
tell me about this book and it comes out in 2 days now.
Well, if they would have contacted us to do a
I
book review,
could have read that
we,
one.
yeah, see. Next news item from comicbook.com, and the writer here is Jamie Jirak. Chris Hemsworth says naked scene in Thor: Love and Thunder was a dream of his. Thor: Love and Thunder is finally hitting theaters in July, and the first reactions from critics have been extremely positive, calling the movie hilarious and heartfelt. There's much to look forward to in the new film, from fan favorite returning characters to some MCU newcomers. One thing that'll be making its Marvel debut in the new movie is Chris Hemsworth's butt. That's a very boys sentence.
Mm-hmm.
The moment was teased in the movie's trailer, and fans are definitely excited to get a peek. In fact, the butt reveal marks the first time a Marvel rating cites partial nudity. During the Thor: Love and Thunder premiere earlier this week, Hemsworth had a great response when asked about showing his rear. It was 10 years in the making, that scene. Kind of a dream of mine, Hemsworth told Variety when asked about his butt's debut. The first time I played Thor, I took my shirt off and I thought, what's going to sweeten this? A decade from now, it's all going to come off.
Yeah, I bet that's what he was thinking then.
I feel like we, I feel like we'd all talked about it. Director Taika Waititi asked. That's how they wrote it.
Yeah, that's how they wrote
Asked.
it. That's
We had talked about, yeah, we got to show off this body. My whole thing was like, Chris works so hard, you got to show it off. Don't cover it up with all these suits and the cape and stuff. It's not fair. Oh, this just goes to show that the humor in these movies definitely comes from behind the
yeah.
scenes. It's not,
It's organic. It's not
yeah,
forced or
it's
anything like that.
no, not at all. Not at all. Oh, okay. There's not really much else to say
No,
about
that's
that.
about it. I just thought that was a fun little
Yeah,
news story to throw in there this week.
yeah. Also from comicbook.com and Patrick Kavanaugh, Marvel Studios announces SDCC plans. This could be big, big news
Mm-hmm.
if they go the way we're thinking that they may go. After much speculation from fans in recent months, Marvel Studios announced today what their plans are for the upcoming San Diego Comic-Con. Between the number of projects the studio is developing, the return to celebrating SDCC in person, and with the D23 Expo coming later this year, fans have been wondering how much the studio would be focusing on the Marvel Cinematic Universe and what's on the horizon. And now we know there will be an in-person presence and presentation at the event. This year's San Diego Comic-Con will be running July 21st through July 24th. and bringing with it a barrage of exciting experiences in honor of a number of franchises. Now, this is Kevin Feige. We'll be at Comic-Con next month, which we're excited about. First time since we were on stage there 3 years ago talking about this movie and many others, referencing Thor: Love and Thunder. And now I think almost, not everything, but almost everything we discussed 3 years ago that was released, so we are excited to go and talk about the future.
Mm.
In the early days of well, this gets into their history there. But what we're thinking we're going to hear is basically how Phase 4 is going to end,
Mm-hmm.
and we may even get, was it last week or the week before that we did a Feige story about him saying that there'll be a lot of really little hints dropped
Right.
that'll lead people on the path of knowing what this entire arc of the MCU is going to be about. Um, I'm excited. We know we're getting a Fantastic Four movie.
Yeah. I think we'll
They've
get some
announced
X-Men
that.
news out of this.
They almost have to, don't they?
Yeah.
I mean, it's. I'd like to hear some casting news for
Yes.
some of the characters. I would like. I don't know why, because this was never even a top 10 character for me growing up, but I would love to hear them announce a casting for like a Victor Von Doom.
Yeah. I mean, they, especially for doing Fantastic Four, like they could even say, "Oh, here's going to be, here's our Fantastic Four," and then have Victor Von Doom like as early bad guy and come back
Hmm.
later as a big villain of everything. But like, I would really love some casting news. So we already know the director,
Right.
because John Watts stepped down. I forgot who took over. Has anybody taken over yet? I don't.
It's a good question.
But I mean, we should hopefully get casting news for it. Honestly,
Yeah, I mean, I'm wondering if they'll do the slow roll here where they introduce Victor Von Doom, the scientist,
right?
but he doesn't become Doctor Doom until the second or third movie. Because I imagine Fantastic Four is going to be one that we get a franchise within the franchise where it's like
Yeah,
Thor or Captain America or Iron Man or something like
someone
that.
help them leading it off.
Yeah. Um, it'd be really interesting though. And Spider-Man's had so many interactions with the Fantastic Four. You figure there's going to be
Somehow throw him in
something there.
there,
Yeah.
or even just a mention.
It'd be nice. But luckily we don't have long to wait.
Right. It's end
So
next month.
yeah, a month from now we'll find out.
Mm-hmm.
Releases this week. Everybody's everybody's soft spot. I feel like for
Mm-hmm.
I think a lot of people just love these characters. July 1st in theaters, Minions: The Rise of Gru. Um, the little Tic Tacs that run around and cause
God,
all sorts of
I got to
mischief.
give you some of those Tic Tacs. 'Cause every time they have a Minions movie come out, they've got like a whole giant thing of Tic Tacs with their eyes on it and everything. I need to get me some for this year.
Uh-huh. That's it. That's it for movies.
So listen,
Tyler.
as far as video games, I don't have any news stories to talk about this week at all. So like, as far as I've been playing, I played Naraka Blade Point, played like 3 or 4 games with it. It's okay. I don't think I'm gonna go back to it at all, really. But it's fine. It's not that terribly bad. It's free on Game Pass, so you can't really go wrong there. Played a little bit of Destiny still, which is normal. But other than that, that's all I've been doing for gaming. What about you? Anything good?
I've been doing the usual stuff, really.
Mm.
Um, kind of getting to a point where I'll probably delete Madden here soon,
Mm.
Madden 22, because 23 is going to drop in like 6 weeks or
Right.
something like that. So that'll give me over that time span. It'll give me time to dive into some other stuff before
Get that
the new
backlog
one
going a
comes
little
out.
bit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, there's not, if people haven't yet, I think it was earlier this week when I had the chance to upgrade my PlayStation Plus.
Mm-hmm.
because they've got the new tiers.
Oh, did you upgrade it to a new tier?
Yeah.
Awesome.
So it opens up a lot of streaming games and things like that. So definitely check that out if you're a PlayStation uh, fan,
Mm-hmm.
user, whatever.
They got a lot of good games on there too. To go back
Yeah.
through and delve in. As far as releases go this week, Monster Hunter Rise Sunbreak DLC for the Switch is June 30th, and same day Outriders World Slayer, the new expansion on for Outriders comes out. I have very tempted to buy it and play it, but it's $40, and I'm like, I spent $60 on the first one on the main thing, and it was okay, and then
Hmm.
like end game just was very disappointing. Apparently they've revamped everything, but I'm like, as someone who was stuck through at the beginning, I don't want to pay $40 for an expansion on a game that I won't play that often. So like I'm very very conflicted with my head there. So we'll see what happens. I'm
Yeah.
sure I'll buy it.
Yeah. I think that they should expansions should never be that pricey. I think they should cap them at like $20.
Yeah, I mean it's like they're trying to rebrand or redo the game for the most point, but I mean it's not like Destiny expansions where it's I think they're $40 to $50. I think they're 40 actually, but I mean Destiny is a service and a game that has been around for a minute and they are established and not flopping right now. So of course I'm going to. I mean they've got so much content, this is what they're supposed to be doing. But I'll wait until see what the reviews come out and say. And I mean, I enjoyed my time with it. I just the online was so janky you couldn't play with people or do anything with it. So I was like, I'm not gonna delve back into it. So
Right.
it's supposed to be fixed though. But we will see next week. But ladies and gentlemen, thank you all for listening and or watching this episode. We hope you enjoyed the episode of NerdWide Podcast. Don't forget to share it on your favorite social media platforms. And forget to rate and review us on whatever podcasting service and app you use. On social media, you can follow the NerdWide account on Twitter at nerd_wide. We actually put some pictures up of us yesterday at the movies. We getting ready to watch Elvis. You can follow me personally at Ty_Haynes. You can follow Chris at MavTN7. On Facebook, search in nerdwide.com. We're the first site or page that comes up that way. Those two ways are the first way you know when the podcast is out and up. But ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for watching and or listening, and we really hope you enjoyed it, and we cannot wait to talk to you next time with Superman and Lois's finale.
Later, guys.